Forest Park at Courtown originally was a 60-acre site, Courtown Woods. It was originally part of the Courtown estate. Back in 1990, the vision of some local business people between Gorey and Courtown saw a huge opportunity to create some amenities for Courtown itself, and they purchased the woodland with some help from Wexford County Council. Having purchased the site, the next phase of development had to be what was best for Courtown. And it was obviously back in the early 90s that what Courtown really needed was a weather-independent facility. Lots of holidaymakers came to Courtown to enjoy the beaches, etc., and that was great when the sun was shining. But come rain, we lost them all. They would have gone on to Splash World at Tramore, etc. So this really pointed the way to what was needed, and the plan for the leisure centre became real. It opened in 2003 and immediately was a very successful project. But we realised quite quickly after opening that energy was a huge burden. The cost of energy was colossal. And this prompted us towards looking at alternative energies. We put a plan together, a 3-stage plan, biomass boilers for wood chip, a small wind turbine to supplement our major electricity costs, and also the solar panel project. The first one to go into place was the biomass boiler system, and it proved to be a huge success.
So this is where the pellets actually get put into the boiler house, into the fuel store. So a truck would come along, attach its blower onto the cam lock here, and pump in the wood pellet into the fuel store, which you'll be able to see just in here. Okay, so this is the area of the fuel store and the boiler house where the computer would automatically pull the wood pellet into the feeding auger, which then moves it along next door into the biomass boiler. What we have here is the wood pellet has come from next door, from where we saw earlier, and is actually being fed from underneath of the fire, which you'll see in the firebox there. It heats all our hot water and sends it next door into the building for use. When we were on oil as our primary heating source, we were averaging between 100 and 110,000 euros a year for just to heat all the hot water in the building, and now we would average around 48 to 50,000 euros a year, so it's cut it down by half.
Then we had to look at the wind turbine project. And at the time, we couldn't get any funding from Sustainable Energy Ireland. Sustainable Energy Ireland had already funded us for the biomass boiler, but they didn't have a scheme in place for wind turbines. So we had to move on ourselves if we wanted to go with the project. So we actually bought a second-hand turbine in Denmark, went over there, made sure it was totally refurbished, brought it in and erected it, and it has been very efficient. It has worked very well for us, to the extent that we're now considering a second larger wind turbine. The 75 kilowatt that we have in place would do about a quarter of our needs. So we're now looking at the possibility of a 300 kilowatt turbine, which would give us total independence.
Switching over to green energy, it's been a huge success for us. We're able to reduce the amount of energy we use, both electricity and in heat units. And then that saving has also converted itself into a huge financial saving for us. We employed a new BMS system, which is a building management system. So for the uninitiated, it's a computer program that lets us automate everything within the building. It's connected to all different manner of sensors around the building, so we can put all our pool pumps on timers, we can put our lights on timers, we can control the environment in the pool hall, which means that we set the temperature for what's comfortable for the customer and the water temperature, and the computer takes over by how much hot air to pump into the area, how much hot water to pump in. So it's constantly keeping it as tight as it can from an operational point, while keeping the customer happy, keeping it nice and warm within that area. And that really lets us automate everything, particularly at night time. So when we're closing up at night, we employ a variety of measures to save energy. One of the biggest ones we use is pool covers. So they're thermal covers that they slide over the whole water area at night time, and that stops the heat loss pretty much down to zero at night time. and overall that's reduced our total electricity and heat usage by 1 million kilowatt hours a year. That's the equivalent to 1 million units on your electricity bill.
At the moment, we're not paid by ESB for any surplus that goes into the grid, so there's no incentive to do that. Instead of that, we're now looking at putting in a new water heating system, a giant immersion in other words, and all our surplus electricity would go into heating the water, which obviously saves cost at the other end then on the biomass. Phase 3 of the three-pronged energy project was solar energy, and we had planned and had at this stage got funding from Sustainable Energy Ireland to complete a major project which when it was planned originally would have had a payback time of about 6 to 7 years. However, at this stage when installation time came around, we were already up and running with the biomass and the turbine, and we had also instigated some major energy savings within the leisure centre, which were successfully put in place by the management. This included new pool covers, covers for all the valves in the boiler house, major cut down on heat loss. So the viability of the solar panel system was now seen in a different light, because it was now measured against much lower energy outgoings and did not make sense to proceed. So we now have planned to put in mainly an educational project on solar energy to complete the picture. The ethos of the whole scheme seems to have been taken up by people in general. They love to come to the site to see the alternative energy project in action. The kids can jump into the pool feeling that the pool is heated by alternative energy, and all in all it's been a great success. The fact that leisure centres of our type in general are huge energy users and in the main lose money, it is almost impossible to make them viable. We find in Courtown, since we moved over to alternative energy, that we have had a small surplus every year. We certainly would recommend the change over to alternative energy uses.